We genuinely own the plantation that you're pulling the rubber sap out of the tree. We process that, we formulate our own blends. And then as the years have went on, okay, so we've got to do this casting or this fabrication. And so we've went and invested into those plants and bought those or, grown them ourselves. But so just continuing to vertically integrate. So seven manufacturing facilities, 750 people.
Diana, Matthew said that Mansons owns their own plantations, and that's how they control that part of the manufacturing process. They actually own the farms that produce the raw materials. So I was really interested in learning more about this, and I asked you to do some research because I thought maybe our listeners would be interested as well. What is involved in making rubber?
I kind of went down the rabbit hole with researching how they make rubber, right? So if you think you're a Canadian, you know all about how they make maple syrup, I'm assuming.
Oh, absolutely.
So Hey,
don't laugh. I've tapped the maple trees myself and actually been, as a kid, we actually did actually tap the trees and get the maple syrup. And so I am aware of it.
So basically all the stereotypes about Canada are true?
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to play hockey in a couple minutes.
Okay, so anyway, just like maple syrup, the workers at the rubber plantation, they actually cut the bark and then they collect the sap, and the sap is called latex, right? We've all heard of latex gloves, latex balloons. So they collect the sap, just like in making maple syrup. And then when they've collected enough, they put it into a big vat. I know that during the pandemic, a lot of us made sourdough bread. And another one of those trends was making your own cheese.
Okay.
So similar to making cheese, they add an acid into the latex sap, and that makes the rubber coagulate just like cheese would coagulate in the whey. It's exactly the same thing. So I thought that was really cool. And that process is called coagulation.
Is it just called a rubber tree, or is there a technical name for it, or?
So it's actually really cool. There are 2,500 different types of plants and trees that produce latex, but generally they use what's called the rubber tree. But another thing I didn't know is that the dandelions in your front yard, hopefully not in your front yard, if you pick them, you'll notice there's some white sap. That's latex too. Isn't that crazy?
So I always thought latex was a synthetic product. I didn't realize it was a natural product. That's really interesting. So the rubber tree is the common name for it. Over 2,000 types. That's crazy. Is the rubber tree native to just India, or is it found elsewhere?
So the common rubber tree is actually native to South America in the Amazon region. But because the climates are similar, rubber trees grow really well in India. And as we said, there's over 2,000 species. So there are other plants that make rubber, but this rubber tree that's been bred specifically for creating rubber really thrives in India.
So I can't imagine that you just get the sap from the tree and then it's ready to go and be used in a heavy duty application in a truck or trailer suspension. So what do they do to make the product more able to withstand the demands of heavy duty?
So the first thing that they do is they make it into black rubber, and they do that by adding black carbon. This strengthens the rubber, and that means that it can be used in something like suspension components, bushings, etc. But the really cool thing is, back in 1839, a man named Charles Goodyear was playing with some rubber, trying to figure out what to do with it, and he dropped it on the hot stove. And he realized that the rubber, which had then been cooked, turned into a very strong leather-like substance. And that was back in 1839, and that was how the Goodyear Tire Company got started. Now, of course, they do this on purpose. They cook the rubber, essentially, and they make it stronger, and that process is called vulcanization, which is just a really cool name.
And immediately makes me think of Live Long and Prosper, but that's for another conversation and probably a different podcast altogether. Diana, that is truly fascinating. Thank you so much for going deep on that and doing some extra research. And I'm assuming this Goodyear fella just happened to start a company that made tires and eventually made airbags and other rubber products. This is really important, I think, though, to see that when it comes to parts manufacturing, product differentiation is truly a challenging thing to achieve. And I just find it fascinating that here this company has taken this extra step of investing in plantations, and this has really enabled them to truly differentiate themselves.